Welcome back to the 10th anniversary season of Why Blank Lost. I'm David Bloomberg, and I was very happy about the outcome of this week's episode. Joining me are two people I have hugged genuinely at different times, so we didn't have to just stop and give handshakes. My co-host, Jessica Lewis, and special returning guest and Survivor 44 runner-up, Heidi Lagares-Greenblatt.
Yay. Thank you. Yes, the genuine hugs are lovely. Handshakes can be great too, though, in the appropriate setting. Both can work. So I appreciate that we were able to see all of these things happening in this episode.
Yes.
Yeah, and for me, thank you for having me. I am excited to talk about the one today. So let's get on it.
Yes. It's maybe a little more exciting than some of the previous ones. Now. That said, this week does make my fourth correct prediction in a row.
Oh, look at you. I don't even remember who I picked.
You went along with me. You were like, well, you keep getting them right, so I'll go with you.
See, there we are.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Now, I'm currently riding high. I am in third place out of over 1,000 people in the prediction thing on Chat BCC.
Wow.
I don't expect that to continue, but for now, I'll be happy about it.
I want to say something there. At the beginning of the episode, they showed like a really quick clip of Sage and Shannon. And funny enough, I was like, oh, one of them is going home. So it's like, don't do that. Don't do
that. Yeah. Sometimes I do give those hints for sure.
Yeah.
So Heidi, how have you been doing since we last saw you?
I'm doing great. Back to my normal life, less Survivor, more real life. Very busy, very, very busy. Work, family. I have some new works for people that follow me on social media, new things happening in social media for me, just doing some traveling things completely separate from my Survivor and personal work. And it's kept me very busy, but it's all very positive. So
good. That's
good. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I mentioned how glad I was to see Shannon voted out, but happy or sad, each week we still follow our usual methods of comparing the player's game to a set of guiding rules for winning I wrote way back after season 1 and have been updating ever since. We'll use all the non-spoiler information available to us from what we saw on TV, interviews, social media, and secret scenes. The newest published version of the rules can be found at robhasawebsite.com/YXLostFeed and clicking on the link bubble for Survivor rules. Before we address how Shannon did in terms of those rules, we always have some other things to discuss. And as much as I didn't love the 3 tribes of 4 idea, I still say this episode was more interesting than the previous 2 combined. Part of it was we got lucky, and the one tribe that was likely to not go with the easy vote was also the one that lost the challenge. Which is good because until now this season, it was pretty much always the tribe that had the easier decision that lost the vote. And so we got unlucky in that regard, but now we've had one episode of lucky.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations where you're like, oh, yay, now we're back to 2 tribes, which I prefer. And then Jeff's like, no. I'm only going to give you a little bit of that because we're going to go back to 3 again. But it is always fascinating to see how the tribe dynamic switches up depending on where people end up. And what I really appreciated about this particular episode was we got to hear a little bit more from like Nate, right? Where Nate was talking about how he had been riding this high and then all of a sudden now he finds himself in a different place.
Yeah.
And he's able to give his perspective about how he's going to really need to step it up in a day in order to ingratiate himself. And I appreciate those components of swaps because you do get to hear from people that you might not have been hearing from because someone like Nate was on the top and everything was going great for him. And so, yes, there's this idea of, well, it's unfair that he got swapped and now he doesn't find himself in that position. But he's looking at it as an opportunity and trying to figure out how best to put himself in a better position. So all of that I thought was nice because I feel like we learned more about players that we haven't been necessarily hearing from. So that's always a good thing to have as part of a swap situation.
I don't know if Jessica is telling us this like in the lawyer political way. So what does that mean? Did you like it or dislike it?
Well, here's the thing. I have said on my soapbox that I much prefer 2 tribes. I just feel like you have more opportunity for groups to form and people to flip on each other within a bigger tribe. So I'm much more in the realm of like, let's go back to 2 tribes and not 3. So do I love 3 tribes? I don't. Do I love that, Jeff is like, what, in a tribe of 4, there's nowhere to hide. Yeah, Jeff, that's part of the reason why we don't love it, because it makes it so obvious for who's in trouble and who's likely to go home, as opposed to there being an opportunity to shuffle things up a little bit. And when you have 2 larger tribes where people can kind of play the middle if they want, because there might be a swing vote because you have more people. So I much more prefer the larger tribes, because I don't like that there's nowhere to hide. I like that people can try to play both sides, or that people can try to test the waters. And so with, Jeff being like, what you could do with 12? Well, you could do a merge at 12, Jeff. There's that too. Yeah. You could do 2 tribes of 6 if you wanted to. Like, we want to go back to 6 because 6 is better than 4, even though 6 is still not great. But yes, so that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, I agree a lot with that. Last week I hated what happened with Jason, right? I really wanted to see more of him, and he was just put into that position where I truly think he didn't have a whole lot of choices here of how to convince. He could have done a lot of things, and I still think he would have gone home. And that was just part of the game, which is very unfortunate, because I really thought he was going to be a good player. So I agree a lot. I also think if you're in the production team, though, and by now you have to be prepared, because this happened every time. There's one tribe that's always weaker than all the others, but they were probably trying to like figure it out almost on the spot. So I didn't mind so much going back to 3, but then and we got lucky with what we got at the end of this episode. But it's very difficult when you just have the position where there's 3 from, they know each other well, and one that's on the outs. Yeah, very unlikely for that one to survive. So, David, you were going to say something, and I interrupted you there.
Oh no, you're fine. Jessica, you had said, what you can do at 12, you can merge. Yeah, but this is Jeff. Even if we merged, it wouldn't have been a merge. It would have been a merge where you could only vote for half the tribe, and then the next vote you get split up and can only vote with half the tribe. So a lot of us have been saying for the past number of years, we've been saying, hey, instead of pretend merging and not merging, how about do another tribe swap? So Jeff apparently heard us and said, okay, we'll do an extra tribe swap. But we didn't say do a tribe swap of 3 to 3 tribes of 4. We meant do a tribe swap of 2 tribes and for a couple of votes or a few votes. And he did it for 2 votes, and then just when it looked like things might get interesting with that swap, he's like, nope, let's mix it up again. Now, again, we got lucky. This one did get interesting, but it could have easily gone the other way and had yet another episode of 3 people looking at one going, bye, so we got lucky. We have this episode, so that's good. We have a lot more to talk about.
Yes, for sure.
I'm very curious if this speaks, and we didn't see that. I think it was just the broken relationship between Sage and Shannon, but I am very curious to see if this is going to play into like, oh, everyone's going to think Steven had some sort of like amazing play for him to survive, right? In that situation. It'll be interesting to see what happens from here, if it's going to be all about Sage and Shannon, or if somehow it will get reflected on Steven. If Steven makes it to the end, I would use that though. In like my speech, I will be like, listen, I got stuck here and I survived and I did this or whatever, right? So I hope if it makes it there that he used this example in his speech at the end.
Now, the other person, the other guy in this tribe was my winner pick, Jawan. And I really need Jawan to wake up and smell the coffee here. We talked last week about how he has provided information to his original tribe mates. He even rigged the rock draw last week to help keep them safe. And in his mind, the original Uli were a solid unit. The problem is nobody else thinks that. He was on the outs. Savannah wanted to vote him out, but she noted that they've kept him in the dark about all of that. And then this episode began by him talking about how if that swap tribe, the first swap tribe, went to tribal council again. Poor Sophie would go.
Sophie, my winner pick.
Yeah, well, don't worry. She was never in danger because all the other original Uli knew she was on the bottom, and he would have been the one voted out. He just has not seen this at all.
And he just continues to be targeted by different people. So I'm fearful for your winner pick.
David. He's even in the second swap this week. He still would have been in the dark if Paige and Stephen hadn't filled him in. Now, we'll of course discuss some things about that when we get to the rules in a few minutes here, but he needs to get with it. I'm hoping that what happened this week will open his eyes at least a little bit, maybe. Please, Joanne, please.
Listen, I'm okay with it, Joanne. Listen, I think you're lovely, but David chose you as his winner pick, and my winner pick, Sophie, without an E, is really doing some amazing things. So I have to really support my girl Sophie, and he's not supporting my girl Sophie. Joanne wanted Sophie out, so I feel for you, David. Joanne's not doing great, but Sophie's doing great. So
and Sophie just found in this episode, she found the advantage, and I truly think
and didn't tell anyone.
Yes,
thank you.
And that's such a big one for her to also not tell anybody. It's so powerful on that one.
Yes,
that one has a lot of power, and she didn't tell anybody, which makes it even better. So she's positioned really well.
Yes. It is this concern that we've had where everyone wants to share all of the information with everyone. And we saw that too with even Rizzo was being told, by the way, everybody knows about your idol. And he's like, oh, okay. Yeah. So that's great. But she was so good about it, even though she realizes she's with Rizzo and she's with Savannah and these are people she's close with. She still was like, nope, I'm not going to tell them. And I love that. I love that. There is so much power in silence. Because then you can have an opportunity to use that later and no one knows that you have it. You knowledge is power. It's in the name, right? You know it, nobody else does. As soon as you start telling people, well, then you lose all the power you have. Because I think we've seen that in previous seasons where they know someone has it and there's this idea that they're going to start
the first time
handing things off, right? Handing things to someone else so you don't know who necessarily has what you think they have. So love that she did not say anything, and I hope she doesn't say anything.
Back with Liana asking Xander, can I have your idol? And he says, no, but you can have this fake idol instead.
Yes. Yes. So this is why I'm so proud of her for not saying anything. Thank you, Sophie, for listening. We love that. That's great.
She may use it to her advantage in the future, maybe telling someone. I could see that. I don't know why I could see that happening from her, but I love the fact that she kept that secret, at least for now.
Right.
So don't tell anybody, people. Listen, I interesting enough, I have to tell you this. I have a 16-year-old who watches with me and she loves it as much as I do. And she actually thinks the opposite way. So I'm like, is this a generational thing? Because she's like, no, you want to share because this is the few opportunities you could actually gain trust. I'm like, no way. So it's very interesting to hear people from the other side of the coin thinking that it's good to share. It's like, no, it's not.
If knowledge is power ends up being used against someone who has shared information about an idol, you can turn to your daughter and say, told you.
There you go. Yes.
It's one of those rare parenting wins over a teenager.
Oh my God.
I was right.
These little things, it's like and then I won't shut up about it too. So yeah.
And I don't know, maybe you've actually been on the show before.
Yeah.
So this idea that you might have some inner knowledge of the workings of how the game goes.
Right, exactly.
All right, well, I know that we're going to have plenty to talk about when it comes to Shannon, so that is all that I had. Do either of you have anything or anyone else you want to discuss before we get to the rules for her?
Oh my God, I have so much.
Good.
I have so much to say, but it's gonna come through, organically. Hopefully, if not, I'll throw it in or inorganically.
We'll just get a list at the end. there were, of course, some other things going on, and I'll be putting some of that in my TikTok and YouTube at David Bloomberg TV. But before we get to how Shannon did, we want to mention that the rules we're about to discuss also come in a shorter and much more colorful version as a poster. Go to robhasawebsite.com/yxlostfeed, scroll down, click it, and order it. In addition to the poster, you can also get the rules in T-shirt form with the poster on a T-shirt, or with the checklist on a T-shirt. I say or, should really be and. You should add everything to your
get all of it. All of it.
So again, that's robhasawebsite.com/yxlostfeed. Well, Jeff said in Tribal Council, there's nothing wrong with playing Survivor hard as long as you're playing well. And we saw Shannon playing hard. And she thought she was doing it well, making all her authentic connections, seeing how people lit up when she wanted to talk strategy, etc. Meanwhile, there are some, including our boss Rob, who suggested that Sage voted out Shannon because he didn't like her, or she didn't like her, which is the real reason. Was it strategy, or was it emotion, or are they intertwined like Shannon herself was? At RHAP, we know Survivor, and we know why Shannon lost. The first and most important rule is, of course, the scheme and plot. It's safe to say that Shannon certainly understood this. From the very beginning, she made alliances, including some we didn't see. When it all shook out at Uli, she was in the core four with Savannah, Nate, and Rizzo, being particularly tight with Savannah, it appeared. While she said in interviews that she felt close to Sage and liked Juwan, she also knew those two were on the outs. But then in the first swap, the only original Uli person she ended up with in a majority Hina tribe was Sage, which was a problem when it looked like things would break down along tribal lines. So as Shannon told Mike Bloom, it became more about self-preservation in that moment. And she started telling the original Hina members she would be open to voting out Sage, which of course got back to Sage. We'll talk more about that aspect in Rule 2. But I do want to say that from one standpoint, that is what she should be doing. We got mad at Matt just a few weeks ago for not doing it to Jason. So she was right to try to get him better with those players in case they did go to tribal council. Yes. The problem was in how she did it along with everything else she was doing, which again, we'll mostly get to in the second rule. But sticking with this rule, one part of what she did wrong when it came to Sage was failing to check in properly. Shannon told Rob that she was keeping her distance from Sage at the first swap tribe for strategic reasons and thought it was understood they'd still be good. But now she sees that was a mistake, and it was. We've talked about this before. It's mentioned specifically in this rule. You can't assume that just because you said at one point that you were allies with someone, that they'll stay with you if you don't talk to them. Right. And too often, keeping your distance for what you believe are strategic reasons makes them think you're keeping your distance for other reasons.
And I'm curious if Shannon didn't fall into this place with Sage, because when you look at her exit press, she talked a lot about how she felt even pregame that Sage was going to be a significant component to her game. And she's very much in I don't even know how to describe it, but the feelings that she has about people and the connection that she thinks she has. So perhaps she thought Sage is feeling the same thing. So I don't necessarily need to talk to Sage because Sage is going to be part of this greater existence that we've created together. And so because she thought that she and Sage were on the same page with, like, we're not going to check in with each other. We're not going to talk to each other as much because we don't want anyone to believe that we are as close as we actually are. Whereas that doesn't appear to be at all where Sage was. And so I'm wondering if that part of who Shannon is negatively affected her ability to actually follow this rule the way that she should have, because she was feeling a particular way about Sage.
Oh, I have so much to say about that, Jessica. So if Shannon is listening to this, and this is how you live your life, I
don't think she will be.
Well, I mean, maybe someone will send it to her. Yeah. I don't think you should assume, even if you have this special chemistry with people, partners, whatever, kids, I don't care. don't ever assume they know what you're thinking. Not in your marriage, not if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, not in the game, because truly, like, you never know what the other people, the other perception, how they're perceiving you, perhaps. So to me, it's so important to have actual verbal communication, to express yourself, because and I'm with you. I think she was assuming she was good with Sage, and Sage loved her the way she was thinking, right? Like, let's hold hands. And like, especially not in Survivor, okay? Because they have their own agenda, and they are going to portray like they're on your agenda, which is not like your own. They're
exactly what Sage was doing.
Exactly right. And everyone should be doing that in Survivor, to be honest, right? So if you are playing the game the right way, I don't care if you're trying to be yourself and all of that, you still try to make the other person happy. That's how you gain allies, and that's how you play the game. So never make assumptions to that point, Jessica. I truly think that she was doing that, and it backfired her, right? Because I actually just listened to a very short clip about her exit interview, one of the many, right? And she was saying that she didn't realize it was that way with Sage, which makes me think what you're saying is 100% accurate.
Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned an important word that we're going to hear a lot of, or can say a lot of later, perception. Don't assume what other people's perceptions are. We'll get to a lot of that later, but yes, it is so important to not only know what you're perceiving about someone else, but put yourself into their headspace about what they think of you.
Right.
So yeah, we'll get to definitely more of that too.
And I think that word is important for the scheming and plotting, though, because you can scheme and plot all you want, but you need to understand how you are being perceived within the game, so it doesn't backfire you. And I actually think she did a lot of things right in terms of making real connections with people. She talked about, the connection with Christina, even, right? You mentioned some of the other original members of her tribe, but so I think that was good. She probably needed to code switch a little bit about herself and tone it down a little bit, but that's a different rule. But from the scheming and plotting, I think, like, there were a couple of aspects that she did well. It's just combined with other things, it kind of fell through a little bit.
Yeah, well, I'll respond to that in rule 2. How's that? Now, as time went on in the first swap tribe, Sage fell further and further away from her. And, like we talked about, Shannon thought she had Sage completely on her side, especially once they got to the second swap, saying things along the way like, I love Sage and she feels like someone I can trust. And I don't think anyone has any idea how close we are. The problem was, even Sage did not believe that they were that close. So it's kind of an issue there. And, we've talked a lot about this season about people being outplayed. And this was just another situation where that happened. Shannon was absolutely blindsided to the point she didn't even bring her shot in the dark die with her. And a large part of this was because she convinced herself that she was doing so well and in such a great position. But both Sage and Steven deserve Emmys for their acting with Shannon, making her feel so comfortable, because they completely outplayed her.
Okay, hold on. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about Sage. With, like, it was not visible to Shannon, but she clearly had all the facial emotions.
Well, but she always waited till it was always behind her back.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah,
like even when Shannon was doing the kissy thing, and Shannon or Sage responded back to her a couple times before Shannon turned around, and then we got the look from Sage there. So
I did love that Sage actually acknowledged this too in one of her confessionals, where she said that Shannon likes to feel like she's in charge and like that she's making the decisions. So I'm going to let her feel that way. And it was, and it really was what we saw every time Sage was with Shannon, it was very supportive of whatever idea Shannon was expressing. It was very much like, oh, you want to hold hands? We'll hold hands. It was hugging, even though she didn't want to hug. And she really did a fantastic job of letting Shannon feel like she was completely in charge, so much so that Shannon referred to herself as like the, what was it, like the confident lucky girl, like I'm the luckiest, most confident person going into tribal council. And that really is props to Sage and then also Stephen for making her feel so good. But really, Sage recognizing who Shannon was and then leaning into it so much was fantastic. It was just fantastic television. It was fantastic gameplay. It was everything that we love about Survivor, because that's what we want to see. We want to see that like conniving, like, oh, I'm gonna get you. And everyone was trying to get everybody, which was so much fun too, because they're like, oh, I want to target Juwan. Oh, I want to target Steven. I want to target Shannon. So all in all, just she really was outplayed, even though she was trying really hard to scheme and plot and to do well in the game the Shannon way, but then that was recognized by other people as the Shannon way, and they let her run with it, and it worked against her.
It's interesting. I think if I'm a casting producer and I get to see these ladies while they're doing their casting process, and you see Shannon, and I don't know their upbringings. I don't know Shannon's upbringings or Sage, right? But you see Shannon is all flowery and yogi and meditation and happy, and then you see Sage that comes complete to me, at least through the TV that we've seen. Very the opposite. I'm a strong female. I mean, she talked a little bit about it in her confessional too, like, oh, this young girl who like loves everyone and I'm gonna eat her up, whatever it was, the way that she said it. I'm sure they had so much fun to put these two ladies together, because they could probably see this a mile away, right? So it's very interesting to see the juxtaposition of both of them together, and somehow they keep grabbing the same buff, and stuck together throughout this. So it's been really great television because they had those two together. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, we can move on to the second rule, where we're going to have a lot to talk about. It says not to scheme and plot too much and to keep your scheming secret. And as I mentioned in the first rule, here's where we saw a lot of Shannon's problems. This rule was even discussed in tribal council. Jeff said, there's nothing wrong with playing Survivor hard as long as you're playing well. He added, directing it at Shannon, you can play hard and covert, and that's fine because nobody knows. But if you're playing hard and everybody sees that, then you're playing poorly, and that's a problem. Sage said, in a tribal council of 4 people, you have to play hard to an extent, but you also don't want to play too hard or the target shifts to your back. It's hard to find that balance. It's like all of them had just finished studying this rule. And it was particularly weird to hear it from Jeff, who is usually all about big moves and play as hard as you can. But all of it was true, and all of it applied directly to Shannon. She just had no idea. She didn't realize it at all. Because she was playing hard, but she wasn't playing well, and she wasn't playing covert. And that was her main problem. Sage saw it. Steven saw it. And then Steven made sure everybody else saw it on the first tribe swap. And Sage made sure Juwan saw it on the second tribe swap.
Yeah.
I do think it's fascinating that there's such a hard balance to try to find, where Shannon really thought she was being genuine and she was trying to make those connections and learn as much as she could about people. But it was like just a little too over the top, right? Where it's like you have to do that. You have to create those bonds. You have to have those connections, but you can't do it so overtly that then other people see it and realize exactly what you're doing. And perhaps because there was some discussion about, was this sincere versus was it strategy? And Shannon is very much like, no, it was sincere. But again, we go back to that perception, right? If people perceive it as not being sincere and perceive it more as she's just trying to like reel this person in and she's going to use whatever she can to try to do that, then you become the target, because all of a sudden people are on to you and they're realizing what they think you're doing, even if you are really like, well, I just want to try to make a bond with somebody. But it's a very hard balance to find. Shannon thought she was doing it impeccably well, when in actuality, it was on blast for everyone, and it gave everyone something to point to. Like, oh, do you see what she's doing here? Do you see the conversation she's having here? So yeah, unfortunately, she did not find that balance, which is a very tricky balance to find.
She overdid it 100%. The connection, to your point, if the connection is quiet, right, it feels almost more quaint and like authentic versus I'm talking to everyone because we're all in the same kumbaya with the same feelings, where you don't really know if everyone is feeling that way. You're just overdoing it, almost overcompensating for everyone else, not just yourself. And that was the over scheming. I mean, I do think she had some authentic aspects of it, but when you start, I don't think if you start saying it too loud and too often, it becomes less believable, right? It's like, guys, I'm always right. I'm always right. I'm always right. And you oversay it. It's like, you're absolutely not always right because you're overcompensating for it.
Except me.
Exactly.
Right. Just
Exactly, David. No, but I truly think that this one was one. She started doing some scheming and plotting, and then she overdid it. She definitely like went too much on it, and it was clear. It was easy for us to see it over the TV. So I think she fell on this one too much. And when you start saying things like, "I'm so confident," and I'm like, I'm so great, like, because there's something happening there. When you start saying those things in Survivor, it's when you actually fall. So I think it's like very few people can survive those moments, and she clearly didn't because she overdid it.
Yeah, I have a whole long list here of multiple problems that Shannon had with this rule. Now, the most obvious was that she was being, the most obvious. She was talking. She was talking strategy with people in full view of others. We saw Sage even mention one time how she could see their lips moving, and she knew what Shannon was talking about. She would go to different people.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. She would go to people and talk to them and then move on to the next and so on. And it was probably okay at first, but it didn't take long for people like Steven and Alex to notice. I mentioned last week it was like a sitcom because Shannon would go talk to someone and then she'd move on. And then Steven would swoop in and tell the person what Shannon was actually doing. So they'd have a full picture of what was going on. And none of them said, oh, no, she's not like that. They were all like, oh. The closest we came was Christina saying, well, I have an emotional connection to her. But then realizing she might have to put that aside to go along with what her allies were telling her.
Right on. Right on.
Yeah. And I do think that those are the moments that really need to be played up when you are playing the game of Survivor, that if you see something in someone, you need to plant that seed to the next person. So you're not necessarily telling them what to think. You're just pointing it out, going, isn't that interesting that this is what she's doing? And what is she doing with you? Because then you get their wheels turning. So you're not going at them saying, this is what she's doing. You're letting them see it themselves, and then they will start noticing it as the game moves forward. So I love that Steven did that, and that he saw something and wanted to bring it to everyone's attention without telling them this is what's happening. It's more of they make the realization on their own, and then everyone was realizing it and then questioning Shannon. So I'm not surprised that everyone started to say, Shannon, playing a little bit hard here. Yeah.
I think that's also what Sage has been doing with someone like Joanne, right? Like, she's been like, I don't think she completely said we're going against Shannon from the get-go, right? But she started like throwing a little bit of, beans here and there, and she finally was able to get her out. So I agree. I think that's one of those things that's like, you cannot just tell people what to do like completely from the get-go. You just gotta like let them think they're the ones making the decisions, right?
Yes. Now, a second problem that she had here was overthinking things, which she was doing, even as she told us, I'm doing my best not to overthink the situation. We saw last week that she couldn't even wait for the sun to come up before proposing a merge alliance with Steven that would involve 2 members from each original tribe. Based on her interviews, she really did think this was going to happen, which was the main reason she wanted to keep Steven this week. I'm not even going to say it was a bad idea per se, But you need to have buy-in from everybody involved in an
Yes.
alliance like that.
Mhm.
And she had no idea what was happening on the other tribe. So how could you plan to make use of, for example, Sophie with an I in this alliance?
Mhm.
You make alliances with people you know you can work with.
Right.
You could promise to bring someone in that like she knew she was tight with, but even with one of them, there was no real way to know what that person's mindset would be. And Steven is smart enough to recognize all of this and see, as he told us, she's playing so hard.
Yeah. Yeah, and she'd never even met Sophie with an I.
Right.
So you're really you're hooking yourself to someone you've never even spoken to. And so I do think that is really like you are thinking too highly of the game that you're playing at that point if you are creating alliances with people you've never even spoken to.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting to me how, if you do the math on the numbers, like they had all their members up until this episode. Is that right? Like
right.
6 of them.
Yes.
So if you know that the original Hina tribe is starting to lose some of the numbers, you got to start thinking, is coming for yours too. It's very unlikely to get into the merge with all 6 of you, right? So I think she should have seen it a little bit coming. She shouldn't be like, oh, I can just relax, I'm all safe, Anyway.
Right.
Now, the third problem here relates to what we've already, both of you have already mentioned, which is perception. And Shannon had no understanding of how she was perceived by others whatsoever.
It makes me sad because she was all so happy. It's like, anyway.
Plus, her own perceptions of others were off. And she made assumptions based on a small sliver of what she saw and believed. We discussed some of this last week, but as a few examples, she said that when she proposed her 2-2-2 plan to Steven, quote, naturally, Steven likes this idea because it's a great idea. When she talked to other players, she told us they'd just been waiting for her to open up strategic discussions with them, as if they'd been like sitting around and she was their savior.
Yes.
And then there was the way she didn't see Sage strategizing, so she assumed that meant she wasn't. Plus, we found out from her interviews that she, of course, had no idea Sage understood where she was in the original tribe, telling Mike Bloom, I now recognize that Sage definitely caught on to the fact that we 4 were so close.
Yeah.
But, of course, she didn't see it at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that this is, again, it goes to what the other players are doing versus what she's doing. And they are, recognizing things that she seems to be oblivious to. We've said this multiple times. If someone is not strategizing with you, that means they're strategizing with other people. And every conversation that she had with Sage was very much Sage just reassuring Shannon. Yes,
that's
Shannon,
right.
That's what we're doing. That's what we're going to do. Sage was never coming to her with new information or new requests or ideas. It was always like, yes, Shannon, that's a great idea. I can't wait to do this, Shannon. Yes. So you can't just assume that Sage isn't having conversations with other people because, she was. She was just a little less obvious about it.
I think we're sneaking into the next rule. I don't know if we're officially on rule 3.
Oh, no, I have so many more things to say about this rule.
He has a list, apparently.
Yeah, no, and I'm saying that because to your point, did we ever hear like, okay, Sage, what do you think? Or Sage telling her a little bit of her opinion. It was all about Shannon's opinion. So it's like, and I'm gonna say it. I'm breaking here to the next one, but we can stay here. It's like she was never flexible in terms of the opinions, right? It was always like Shannon's opinion, and that's a big problem with the game of Survivor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as far as more for this rule, in Shannon's mind, both at the time and apparently still today, she was, and this is something I think, Heidi, you brought this up a little while ago, the authenticity that, she believed she was being 100% authentic in her connections, or it might've been Jessica talking about this, or maybe both of you. I should take notes as we go. Indeed, she said that time and time again, I'm being 100% authentic. But when you appear to get that close to someone, and then you stab them in the back,
Mm.
they are not going to perceive it as authentic. And
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
admits that was part of her gameplay. She told Mike Bloom, I really gave it my all strategically and really tried to control the game the best I could. And then I also genuinely wanted to be an emotional safe space for people out there as well, and just really care about them on a human level. She wanted to have her cake and eat it too. And it can't be both. If you're going to go on about your authentic connections, you can't turn around and talk to other people about wanting to vote them out. It's a double whammy that not only tells people you're over scheming, but that you're playing with their emotions as well. Like we saw Sage say, Shannon didn't have my back. Shannon's been playing a dirty game. She is very snaky. She's very disingenuous, but tries to lead with this front of authenticity.
Yeah, that's a very like heavy like commentary to make about Shannon and what Sage was seeing her game every single day and what it existed of. So yeah, I think that's coming from Sage. That's saying a lot about how Shannon was acting on the island and how she was being perceived on the island.
This is a hard game. And for those that have played the game, we understand you do connect with people in some way or shape, right? There is something super special about spending 24/7 with someone or multiple people there. You don't eat, you got to help each other, and you truly have to help each other to make the life easier living there. So I do think there is something about the special connection you make with some of them. But then when you overdo it and over express it externally, right, it becomes like it's too much. And not everyone is going to feel that way. People there are uncomfortable. People there are tired. People there are hungry. So when you start saying how wonderful this life is and the beautiful of being in this, because it is beautiful, by the way. Fiji is incredibly beautiful. But sometimes you're like, I just want to complain about how hard we have it here. And then when you see those people having this crazy and beautiful connection, they start saying it, you may get annoyed, okay? Because you're like, I want a freaking sandwich. I want a grilled cheese. And this person is here just talking nonstop about how butterflies and like, air and meditation. And I just want to complain for a moment and just say how sucky it is sometimes to be here with no food. But you got to be aware that not everyone's going to have this crazy, beautiful connection with the land 100% 24/7. I do think it's beautiful to have some personal connections, but be aware not everyone's going to have the same beautiful emotion connection with everyone else. It's real life too, where not everyone's going to connect to that level. And when you overdo it, people will get annoyed. I think I would have been annoyed, by the way. And I was there, really trying to, for example, she was with Nate, and I love that episode because I actually can't relate. Maybe that shows my age, but I love the, oh my God, how many times are they going to say this is a vibe or whatever it was right at the beginning? Like, this is a vibe, or and I'm with Nate. Like, when you overdo it, then not everyone is going to be in that vibe, by the way.
Right.
So I love that clip so much because I'm sure I was in his shoes at some point where I'm like, oh my God, these people are truly much younger than me, but you know what? I'm going to connect with them, but I'm not going to be saying it 20 times, right? So anyway, I could talk so much about it because I love Nate, by the way.
It was funny too. That seemed to be a That Tribe thing, because like when Rizzo swapped over, he said to someone on the other tribe, I don't remember who, he said, oh yes, this is cinema. And they were like, yeah, it's like a movie. Or something like that. They totally didn't get that this was something.
Right.
They took it very literally in that moment there.
I just want all the Marvel people to come together already. Can we
just
do this? Like,
yes, they keep talking about it. Yes,
I know. It's like this. It's like this little like little Easter eggs. Like, oh, are you a Marvel? I love Marvel. I'm like this huge. And then you've got Nate, and it's just like, come on already. Like, just let's talk about Marvel with Nate and the Marvel fanatics that are out there. I want that to happen so bad.
And I think they keep giving us snippets of it, like, we love Marvel together or whatever. I'm like, I really hope this is gonna be a big thing when they all merge, at some point, because it's like, just talk about it. I can't wait.
Yeah. Going back to Shannon, there were so
Sorry,
many.
we went on a
No, that's
tangent
okay.
there.
No, that's okay. Well, I was the one who brought up cinema and movies. So there were so many instances of Sage in particular talking about Shannon's gameplay. She told us she shot herself in the foot at this point. I think she'll be familiar with the term karma given her spiritual practices.
Yeah.
And it feels like that's on the horizon. And she said, I'm going for Shannon because she's been playing both sides very hard. And Shannon's been throwing me under the bus for the last couple days. And now 24 hours later, we have Shannon's new turn belief of, I want to work with you, Sage, and so much more. But that last one is key. It's not just that she was overplaying. It's that her behavior made it obvious she couldn't be trusted going forward.
Right.
She pretended to be with Sage on original Uli, then tried to get her voted out on the first swap tribe, then went back to pretending to be close to her. And Sage knew once they got back to the merge, Shannon could easily just get back together with her original Uli allies and dump Sage by the side of the road again. And, she was certainly able to explain that to Jawan, who Shannon was currently targeting. Even Jawan, who was, as I said earlier in the podcast, in the dark about so much. Well, she is targeting you. She is literally targeting you. So with the way she was behaving, she looked like a fair weather friend.
Yeah.
Which
I see what you did there.
Yes.
Did there.
Yeah, I was like, okay, are they going to remember her last name?
Oh yes, yes.
So yes, hopefully everyone watching got that.
The fair weather part.
Yes. It is really on the nose for that to be her last name, by the way.
Yes, it is very much on the nose. Yes, it's very and all very accurate explanations and descriptions of what was happening. Yes.
Well, the third rule tells players to be flexible. Heidi, how do you think Shannon did in terms of this rule, especially since you already dipped your toe in here?
This is a tough one. I think this is one of those that between this one and number 4, but this is one of those that I think she fell short. And I alluded to that in many of my comments. I was just actually reading their titles or occupations, the way they're listed. And Shannon says wellness specialist, and then Sage says clinical social worker, right? And as I think through it, and I don't know exactly what that means for their real lives, but I think when you go into the game of Survivor, everyone comes from different sides, different parts of the country, different upbringings. And I said this earlier, but I'll say it again, right? If Shannon comes across to me like she maybe hasn't had it that tough in terms of like roughing it in life. It's all, and even if it did, she is coming across as like, it's all butterflies and happy and wellness. And we're here and present, which by the way, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, that's a beautiful thing in real life. I think it's beautiful for her, but she has to understand not everyone comes from that. Some people come from hustle. Some people come from struggles, right? And when you go there, you have to go in the game being yourself, but you have to understand the flexibilities behind how you have to act there to listen and see where everyone else is coming from, their differences. So I think that's the beauty of the game. Everyone is going to have their own special story behind the scenes. So I think it's super important to have some flexibilities within your games to listen to other people's differences and understand that. And she was completely all about all the butterflies. Listen, the game is not going to be butterflies. You're going to have to backstab. And she tried to use her strength. By all means, use your strength and what you know to use it for your game and plot and scheme. But you got to be flexible within that, because not everyone is going to be the same way that you are. So I truly think the lack of flexibility with who she was what was hurting her, right? Because be your authentic self. I'm not saying change necessarily who you are, but you gotta be flexible to understand other people's life and stories and what they like or dislike in order to find a common place there for the game. And the lack of flexibility on that and her game and scheme around that it was all about herself and the meditation and the breathing and all of that, I truly think it hurt her game and strategy behind the game. I don't know if you were going that way or not.
No, but I think that's an interesting like way to view it, because she certainly wasn't flexible in getting away from who Shannon was.
Correct.
But she did at least seem flexible in, I want to target other people for Shannon, right? So it was like, so she was willing to consider, I want to take out Sage, or I want to take out Juwan, I want to work with Hina and not just stick with Uli. And so there did seem to be like her desire to be flexible within the game as to who she was going to play the game with, but it was all locked into what Shannon wants as opposed to what's best for other people. And so she wasn't taking into consideration those people around her. She was just kind of assuming, like we talked about already with Sage. Sage never said, what about me? Like, do you want to know what I'm thinking?
Exactly.
Do you want to know my opinion? Shannon was just like, okay, good. Sage is with me. Ta-da, we're done. And so I think that, yes, there's like this weird dynamic with her where she wasn't taking into consideration anyone else in that moment. And so she wasn't thinking about that person. It was very Shannon specific.
Yeah. And another example is when Steven and Jawan were like nerding out their connection, and they show a quick clip of the girls saying like, what are they talking about? They're probably just nerding out. Guess what? I would be nerding out with them. Like I would find anything in myself to nerd out with the boys too, right? So it just speaks to the fact that they were almost like, I just let them nerd out. That's not my thing, kind of situation. Guess what? You gotta be flexible to be nerding out with the boys too, kind of situation, right? So I think she lacked a lot of flexibilities within who she was being for the game, even if she was trying to be herself, right? So.
Yeah. And, Heidi, you bring up a very interesting point. I had not thought of it that way. I was thinking of this, in the more of the usual way, I guess, which is, I thought that she tried to follow this rule. She said in episode 1, a big part of my game is being adaptable. And she told Mike Bloom, I knew it was going to be important for me to have options moving forward. And my goal was to honestly lock it in with Sage and then kind of play both sides from there. But I knew it was going to be a little tricky just because I felt like I had to play so hard with all the different tribe swaps and different dynamics, and also managing the social connections that I already had from earlier in the game too. But of course, even looking at it from this perspective, the thing is, she didn't have to play that hard. And as we spent time discussing, she shouldn't have. At least not in the way she did it. She put herself into the situation where she wanted to be super flexible, but made it so there were a number of people she had to double cross in order to move forward, which takes us back to what I was saying about how Sage couldn't trust her because she'd already seen Shannon drop her and try to pick her back up once and knew she would do it again. So she was inflexible in both ways, the way I was thinking and the way you were thinking, Heidi.
Yeah.
Thank you. I like the way you're saying that. Now, flexibility it's so important for the game, which is why you guys made it a rule, right? But it's not just flexible of your strategy. It's also about personality, about listening to other people. I think flexibility, it's so important, but there's so many facets behind the word flexibility, right? So this one was one that, at least from what we saw, it was very much Shannon's way or no way, and unfortunately backfired her.
Ended up being no way.
Yeah.
So the fourth rule tells players not to let their emotions control them. And I think this is an interesting question. We know she was trying to control people using emotions, which we've already discussed somewhat in Rule 2 and will again in Rule 5. But Jessica, do you think she was controlled by her emotions?
Well, I agree. I struggle with this, right? Because she is someone who expressed even in tribal council how things were being manifested around her, and that she had such a deep connection with the the space and the energy, and she's very much that person. And so I don't know if it was allowing her emotions to control her. I think it was more of her personality and who she is that was kind of controlling what she was doing and why she was acting the way that she was and how she was putting herself out there and claiming to be her most authentic self. So it's an interesting mix because she is someone who is very spiritual. She's someone who is very much interested in speaking about God. And so that portion of her, I think, certainly affected how she played this game. And so I don't know if it was necessarily controlling her, but it was part of who she was. And so it was like she couldn't get away from that in the decisions that she was making. And so she's this weird mix because she wanted to be both, right? She wanted to be that authentic person, but then at the same time, and she even acknowledged this, she's like, but I also want to run the game. And so it's like you're trying to find that middle ground. So I don't think she necessarily allowed it to control the gameplay. She wanted to control the game itself, but this was a part of who she was. And unfortunately, that part of who she was affected how other people saw her and affected how other people felt about her. And so it unfortunately backfired, right? Because she wanted to be able to do both. Like, I want to be this spiritual guide, if you will, but I also want to control the game at the same time. So I know that doesn't really answer the question you asked me, because I do think she's such a mixed bag, because there's so many things happening that are almost contradictory to each other. But Shannon was trying to intertwine and put it all together in this game, and it certainly didn't work out.
If you think about it, she talked about her perhaps religion. I think at some point she mentioned the Bible and things like that. And those are things that the game of Survivor essentially goes against so much of what's written, of what's right in this world. So I have to imagine in her head, in her game, it's a battle of, do I be the right good person, but I'm playing Survivor, so I gotta like backstab people. So I'm sure in the back of her mind, it's a struggle of, I want to do what's right and I want to be myself and be bubbly and do the right thing. But then this game is pushing me to do, sometimes it pushes you to do things you don't want to do. Right? I mean, you have to vote people out, although she wasn't in tribal council much before, at all before. Right. But in general, this is a game that is a lot about backstabbing. So I am sure this was a really tough one for her, because it's like, all my connections with this world in the positive way versus I have to backstab people to win the game. So it's, I don't know if I would say this was like the weakest part of her or not, but I'm sure there were a lot of struggles in her mind for this one, because it's such a very, very complete, two different worlds there, right? Having the religion and the right thing to do versus playing Survivor to win, which entails a whole lot of backstabbing.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to say for this one, I don't think she was controlled by her emotions. And
there you go. I'm surprised. All right.
Well, I think that was part of the problem that Sage saw, because she had these supposedly authentic relationships that, like you mentioned, she kept saying authentic.
Yeah.
And if you keep saying that, the less people believe it.
Yeah.
But then she was not affected by them when deciding to tell others, like she would vote out Sage or wanting to vote out Jawan this week. And, don't get me wrong, that's perfectly in accordance with this rule. And she would be doing the right thing in that regard. But it goes back to what we discussed in Rule 2. You can't give the appearance of caring so much and then turn on them, because then it looks like you were just pretending, which makes it even worse. Even if turning on them is the right thing to do strategically, you have now put yourself into a worse position, because it looks like you're this person who's using emotion and manipulating them and digging into their heart and everything else.
Well, one more comment, and maybe I'm reflecting myself into this comment, because when she got voted out, she kept her composure, right? Like, she's like, guys, I still love you, and the whole Sage, I'm gonna give you a handshake, not hug you, because it's not gonna be authentic or whatever, right? And she stayed true to who she is. I think, at least to who I think she is. And listen, if I was in that situation, I would have been like, screw you and you and you. And you don't want to give me a hug, screw you too. So I think I would have lost it, just based on the game of what was happening. So she probably controlled her emotions at the end and just stayed true to who she was the entire time, which is quite interesting. I would love to have a conversation with her and be like, were you not even a little bit mad about it? Because I am so competitive. If they kicked me out that way, I would have been pissed, right?
I mean,
so I'm very curious about that one there.
I think in some of her interviews, she said, she was in shock. And I think that's more what it showed, that this was so far out of the realm of possibility in her mind that when it happened, it's like, and I've heard this from a lot of players before, like it went blank. I don't even remember it. She didn't say this, but I've heard other people, like I think Kelly, when she said, "What the hell, guys?" She didn't remember saying that.
Right.
I think it was her. And the same thing happens with other people. Like they just black out and they don't even remember. And so I wonder if it's a similar situation where she just clicked into her normal mode.
Yeah.
I love you, I love you, I love you, without even being able to truly
process.
Right.
So I don't know in that moment, I don't know if she's like controlling her emotions or not, or the complete opposite. So I question that, because when I saw her leaving that way, I'm like, I'm shocked. Like that's really how she reacted. Like really, like wow. Like did she have a competitive, at least a tiny little bit, to be pissed? I don't know, but I think you're right. Like maybe it's the shock of it. You just cannot really process what's literally happening on the spot. And when you're in tribal council, your heart is beating so hard. And when you start seeing your name, it goes double faster. Right. So, and trust me, I know that because I got what it, my name kept coming up and my heart was just like eating myself. Anyway, so I went on a tangent there, but in true honesty, when we talk about emotions, I keep thinking to that moment, like I totally would have not reacted that way.
Yeah. All right. Well, the fifth rule reminds players they need to pretend to be nice and play the social game. I've mentioned on previous podcasts and my videos on social media the idea that Shannon was seen as being performative. And some people have responded and commented to say they didn't think that was the case. It's just who she is and how she acts. Now, mind you, the people who are commenting that don't actually know her. They're just other viewers of the show like us. So it's their interpretation. And the fact is, none of us can 100% know what's going on inside her head. But we can judge by her actions compared to what she says. One of those actions, which we discussed at length earlier, was to pretend to be super close to Sage while simultaneously encouraging other people to vote her out.
Right. Yes.
And there's no debate about that. She was being performative in the way she acted with Sage. You cannot argue that. If you say one thing to one person and you say another to another, you are being performative. It's right there in the definition.
Yeah.
She was putting on a show when they were together when they weren't. And then this was the same show she put on with Jawan in this episode. Now, as I said earlier, it's not bad from a game perspective to try to make a person feel comfortable as part of your strategy. It's a good thing to do. And it's not even bad in this rule, which literally says pretend to be nice.
Right.
But the thing is, you have to be successful at it.
Yeah.
To go back to one of the things Jeff said at Tribal Council, you can play hard and covert, and that's fine because nobody knows. But if you're playing hard and everybody sees that, then you're playing poorly, and that's a problem. She was playing people hard in terms of this rule too, and they saw it.
Yeah. And I think part of the issue that she was having is that, and Heidi, you probably know this as well, like there's always going to be that one person, right, that you're playing the game with. You're like, I really need that person's got to go. And so you might be a little more I don't know, opinionated about that person. You might want people to consider that person a little bit more. You might be mentioning that person's name a little bit more. But the problem with Shannon was she was doing that with multiple people. And when you start doing it with multiple people, you have to imagine at some point those people are going to come back together and they're going to be having conversations. Jawan even said, there's only 4 of us. And when you see 2 people walk away, you can pretty much surmise or assume that we're one of the people they're discussing, because we're the other half. And so she didn't realize that even if you're pretending to be nice to this person to their face, but then to this person over here, you are throwing them under the bus. In these small groups like this, when people have to try to pick a name and they have to try to talk about who they think needs to go home, they're going to start comparing notes. And all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, wait. So she's, and that's exactly what Sage did. She's like, listen, Juwan, she tried to vote me out. Like she was telling everybody about me. And Juwan was like, what? I mean, he was completely like blown away that she was doing this, but it then gave him pause. And it makes you realize, no, what Sage is telling me is probably more likely true, because if she was doing it to Sage, now she's doing it to me. And I think that's really where Shannon struggled with the pretend to be nice component. You can pretend to be nice, but when you're pretending with everybody and you're also targeting everybody, then the ruse is up and people are going to be onto you and they're going to be talking about you, and you find yourself getting voted out.
Mm-hmm. I think so unlike both of the comments, and maybe you'll agree with me, I actually think she didn't break this one too badly. I mean, this rule compared to some of the other ones we have discussed and one that's coming up, right? I think she was playing nice. She really was. I truly think she was being nice, and she tried to play the game along with it. So I don't think this particular rule, and I'm pretty sure I've never said this in this podcast, but I think she followed this one pretty decently. Most of the time we find faults for all the rules. This one, she played nice. She tried to play with strategy and scheme and plot and all that. The lack of the other rules is what really she fell off the wagon, right? But this one, I think she was, I really think she came across as being a nice girl, even from that post interviews and all of that. So for me, this one didn't apply as much for her to go home. But that's a first one for me, because I always find flaws within all the rules for this podcast.
Yeah, I think that just a lot of it goes back to the topic we've discussed, that, as Shannon told us, a big part of her strategy was for people to think she was making authentic connections with them, because they were authentic connections. And similarly, she told Mike Bloom over the course of several answers, which I'm combining together, being sincere was the strategy. I wanted to learn on my social skills and my social ability to connect with people. So for me, actually using this time to get to know people, to talk about Christina's Irish twins and her mom, or Stephen and Space and his girlfriend Kelsey, or Savannah's boyfriend, or Nate's daughters, or Rizzo's relationship with his brother. Jawan's grandmother just passed in the past year. So these conversations, you're playing the game. And she's right. You are playing the game. As we've discussed before, everything you do in the game is playing the game.
Yes.
And almost everything is fair in Love, War, and Survivor. But that doesn't mean you'll get away with it.
Exactly.
And this, the last thing she mentioned was the one that really struck me. The fact she had conversations with Juwan and gave him emotional support over his grandmother passing away, and then wanted to blindside him. Like, is it fair? Absolutely. Is it within the game? Sure. Is he going to see it that way when he finds out? Hell no.
Right. Yeah.
But that's what this rule is about. Can you read the rule word by word real quick, David?
Well, the title is pretend to be nice and play the social game. So she was pretending to be nice, but the problem of the social game was it can come back to bite you if you overdo it. So in a way, it kind of loops back to the second rule.
Yes.
And, but it's the second rule as it applies to the social game.
Exactly.
We don't have a pretend to be nice, but don't pretend to be too nice rule. It all gets lumped into this one because it's so rare that you have like this. And, in some ways, Shannon seemed to understand this. She also told Mike, I have a lot of compassion for the fact that people are like, she's being performative or it's not authentic, because it's the lens of a game of Survivor where everything's the game. Now, that sounds great when she says that. If she had realized that in the game, she might have done better. But then she continued to Mike, What matters to me is that I was authentic to myself. And that's why I immediately go, and we're out. That is not what matters in the game. She later added, I was misunderstood by people on the cast. Okay, maybe. But that makes it sound, and maybe this was intentional, maybe not, but it makes it sound like she's blaming them when she is the one at fault. She is the one who took the actions that made them perceive her the way that she was acting. If she was misunderstood, it's because of the mixed signals that she was giving them.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Now, you asked about this rule, and you asked me to read out the title.
Yes.
And, well, actually, before I get to that, sorry, I had one more thing. Earlier, we talked about how Sage and Steven outplayed Shannon in the first rule, and really they did it here too, because as much as Shannon thought she was making all of these sincere connections so she could vote people out, Sage told us, it's time I got to put the schmooze on, even though I hate the schmooze. You have to do it in Survivor. And she did it so well that Shannon bought it. Although, I do have to say, it goes back to Heidi, what you were saying. She wasn't really paying attention to what other people were saying and doing. It was, her paying more attention to herself. But, she did this. Shannon bought it. And then she turned around and give us her true feelings through facial expressions.
She has so much potential for a gazillion memes here. Okay?
I've already
so great.
That GIF that I just posted for those of you on audio. I posted a GIF that I made of Sage, giving the look after the kissy face stuff. That one. So I recently started uploading GIFs to Tenor, and this one is by far the most popular. So. It just already in the week that it's been up there.
It's fantastic.
It is. It really, and she did it so many times, and they're playing with it too, right? Like I feel like in every episode, maybe at least the last 3 episodes, it has been a lot about her facial expressions. Give them to me, and I would be so scared to do it. I would be like so scared to do it, because what if in my head it would be like, what if like Shannon is seeing me doing it, right?
Well, right.
She does it so well. She goes from like smiling to like disgusted, right? So it's very interesting.
Yes. Now, getting back to what I was starting to say there, the title of the rule. So I mentioned it, and you asked about it. But for Shannon, I need to add in the subtitle of the rule, which is to keep your politics and controversial beliefs to yourself.
Right.
Yes.
I forgot about
that.
Yes.
It is.
That's where she fell through. Let's go.
So coming into the game, I figured this would be a huge issue for her, giving her absolutely insane pregame interview. I thought for sure she'd be voted out first. To her credit, she toned it way down from that discussion to the game itself. The most we saw her doing early on was sharing some of her beliefs and doing yoga breathing stuff. Now, I personally would be eye rolling if I were there, but others seem to be willing to, mostly go along with it in order to keep her as an ally. But as the days went on, the weirdness factor increased. We saw her last week talking about Jesus getting high on God. And then this week, she said she had memories of being in the womb.
I forgot about that.
Which is simply a biological impossibility. And then she added that she was conceptualizing vision while there, which adds another layer of the word salad gobbledygook we talked about previously. Those words all have meaning. They don't have meaning when they're strung together that way, talking about a fetus. Okay? Was it the reason she was voted out? No. But as Steven even said to her face, it was crazy. And it sure didn't help matters.
Yeah. And I do think that this is where we were very concerned pregame, what effect, if any, this was going to have. And I do agree. She did tone it down. But also, I think she was feeling very comfortable, because the longer the game went on and the more that people supported her and the way that she wanted to play the game, where they were doing the meditation and the breathing. And so in her mind, she's probably thinking, wow, they're really like, they're buying into this, or they're believing this, and they're supporting the the things that I'm expressing. And so much so that it was an entire section at tribal council where even Sage was like, oh yes, I was really hoping that I was going to have someone who was going to be meditating and helping me breathe, and ta-da, here she is. And I know Sage was just doing that because she felt like she had to keep this facade going. But I do think that that's what we ended up seeing, where Shannon was just becoming more and more comfortable because she was believing that everyone else was supporting this vision of the survivor life that she was creating and wanting to exist in. And yeah, it did a little bit of a backfire here.
Jessica, did you have someone to do meditation and yoga and all of that in your season?
No, we did not.
Our tribe was too old for that kind of stuff.
The closest we had was Ken. Ken was more of the wanting to kind of enjoy the space and where we were at, and kind of talk through things. And I had to remind him sometimes, like, no, we need to actually focus on the game right now. But no, there wasn't anything of the sort going on.
Yeah, I wonder if it's also a generational thing, which is like the people that are in their 20s now are more into that than what we were in our 20s or whatever. I don't know, right? But it does seem to be a common thread or thing every year. There's always at least a person in the tribe or perhaps in the season that goes into that. And it was like Shannon was that person for this season times potentially 25, right? Like she was like very vocal about it. I mean, I had that in my season as well. Like we had the yogi was like my friend Jamie, and my friend who was not my friend in the game, by the way, or my friend Danny, right? Like he's all about the breathing, and even long story short, I do think this is a new wave of players but then it was so visible for Shannon to the next level. And I am so glad, David, that you mentioned the caption, because I asked you to read it, and when I asked you that, I didn't even realize the caption said that. And I would take everything back. She followed the rule, but then the caption was like where she fell off for this one. So
yeah, I mean, to your points, Heidi, I think it's a casting thing. I think that casting has found, we should throw one of these types of people in there. It makes things, they'll never win, but it's someone who's fun to watch. Fun for some people.
Good television.
Me, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like almost every early season of the Traders for every country, they threw a psychic in because they knew the psychic would fall on their face.
Yeah,
and now they don't have them so much. I mean, mostly because if you're someone who claims to be psychic and you go on a show and you can't read anybody and tell who the traders are, for example, that's not good advertising for your business.
No, it's really not.
So if you're someone who does that, you should stay away from the traders. But I think they just throw those people on. I think it's more that than it is. I mean, there have always been people like this going back to the 60s, the Flower Children and everything else. I was born in the 60s. I am not a child of the 60s, just to make that clear. But so the very late 60s, by the way. But there's always going to be people like that in any given generation.
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of casting. You had Coach.
That's true. That's true.
Now, Coach, again, he's the person who would never admit this, but he, of course, used that for strategy. But there was Coach. There was Holy Peter, who was voted out first, way back in, was it Marquesas? We talked about him before. He was the one who opened up by saying, I do meditation and I meditate upon our 5 holes in our body and this and that. And everyone, and everyone else was like, yeah, we're going to make a hole in the tribe where you used to be sitting. So, so those people have always been there. It's just a matter of how well they do. I do think you're right that, I don't remember now who said it, that she felt much more comfortable. Like you don't just randomly bring up, hey, I have memories from the womb.
Yeah.
In regular conversation. I mean, she might, I mean, this is the woman who, made her own AI Jesus and started following it.
Oh
So,
my God.
You did.
so, but yeah, in a game, you have to be comfortable with people in order to bring that up. So she certainly felt comfortable enough.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, even if those particularly nutty things weren't the reason she was sent packing, the way she talked about her religious beliefs still play a role. She told Mike Bloom, God's my favorite topic. God's going to continue to be my favorite topic. And I'm like, okay, fine for you, I guess. But that doesn't mean people necessarily want to hear about it on Survivor.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially when it seems like she's using it as a way to get close to people in game terms.
Yes.
Yes.
We talked earlier in the season about people using religion as part of their strategy. You just mentioned Coach. And then refusing to admit they were doing it. And indeed, while she was happy to say she talked about religion in the game, and she was happy to say she used it to form these so-called authentic connections, and she was happy to say her strategy was to make those connections, she didn't connect the dots and say she was using religion in a strategic way. But she was. Just follow those three things that she said. And some people in the game may not be very fond of that.
Right.
Indeed, that was a big part, I think, of Sage describing her beliefs becoming more performative.
Yeah. Yeah. There was one episode, and I can't remember, a couple weeks ago, they were showing, the shot was everyone like doing the meditation with their eyes closed. And there was one person that the eyes was open and just looking around. And I can't remember if it was like Steven or Alex. Maybe it was Alex, just like, okay. It's very interesting because not everyone necessarily they don't have to be in that mental space to do that all the time with a group, right? Do I think it's good for you and good in there? Yes, I think it, but that doesn't mean I think it's good for everyone or everyone's going to have the same connection as everyone else.
Right.
So it's quite interesting, right? Like, and I do think she's gold for TV. She was gold for Survivor. I'm sure when Jeff met her, he's like, this girl, we have to put her on the show, and then we have to put someone who's the opposite, right? So I said this earlier. They saw Sage and they saw Shannon. They're like, these two together, gold for the show.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the sixth rule warns against being too much of a threat. Shannon is not the typical player you might point to and say she's a threat, but she certainly was for the three other players on her tribe. Of course, she was an immediate threat to Jawan. And we spent a lot of time talking about how Sage knew she couldn't trust Shannon because of the way Shannon had pretended to be with her and then actually been against her and then pretended to be with her again. Anyone who would do that is a danger to your game. And even though she wanted to work with Steven going forward, he couldn't trust that was real because of what he saw of her overplaying. So that made her a threat to him as well.
Yeah, and this is something that we've talked about quite a bit, where you become a threat to whoever you are targeting. And so if that person can rally the troops, then you end up finding yourself in a situation where multiple people are going to be then targeting you because you're threatening one person who is able to rally troops versus Shannon, who might not be able to rally the troops even though she thinks she's going to. So it is an interesting way to view being a threat. And this is why when you say someone's name, it becomes such a scary potential, because you could, and Sage actually said this, then the target can be put back on you because now you're talking about somebody else. And you have to find that balance, and Shannon certainly wasn't able to do so. And I think it was just because she was targeting so many people that no one was able to then really support her in the way that you need to have the support in order to go after anyone, because you need the numbers.
I muted myself because the dog was barking his face out. I agree. I didn't think about it that way, but the threat, putting someone else's name, makes you also, potentially be a threat, and they could be a threat for you. So it's so scary to say any names, and she threw quite a few names out, right? Yeah. So that was definitely a scary thing that backfired, because of course Sage could use that to her advantage to then put Jawan against her, and then ended up voting for her. Yeah. So absolutely, I am 100% there with that comment. Yeah.
Well, we could go to the 7th rule, and I think we can move through this quickly, unless one of you has something, a different perspective than me. It covers idols and advantages in game mechanics. And I mean, I mentioned earlier that she left the shot in the dark at camp because she was completely fooled. I do think it was funny. Jessica, I meant to mention this earlier, where you were talking about how Sage was being performative at, well, herself at making Shannon feel comfortable at tribal council. If they had known she left the shot in the dark back at camp, that would have been funny, because they could have been like, just, we don't need to pretend anymore. We're voting you out,
Right.
But, but yeah, there's not even a debate. Like, we've had a debate. Should Matt have played it? Should Jason have played it? There's no debate here. She was completely fooled. Can either of you think of anything else in this particular rule?
Can you remind me something? So did she say somewhere that she didn't bring the shot in the dark?
Yeah, she said it in her interviews. Yeah.
Oh, so not in the show, but afterwards. Okay, because I was like, I don't remember that. But okay, people who's listening, watching, and you play Survivor, never, ever, ever leave any of your goodies and your currencies behind for tribal council.
Right.
Like, have they not been watching for 25 years? That's a big no. Independently, you need it or not, how comfortable you feel or not, I think you gotta carry it with you and bring it to tribal council always. I think that's a foolish, maybe it should be like very visible in the rule here, where like, if you have an advantage, it doesn't matter how comfortable you are, bring it. I cannot tell you how many times I have seen this backfiring in some way or shape. And not only bring it to tribal council, by the way, bring your bag with all your things. You don't know if there's going to be a swap. You're going to go to a different island where you're going to need it. I mean, people have gone home because they forgot their bags and their stuff was in camp when you were doing a challenge. Because after they challenged, they took you to some sort of weird twist where you go somewhere else and then you don't have your bag. Like that. This one, by the way, blows my mind every time. Whether it's a shot in the dark, I know many of you out there think it's not useful in a situation like this. It could, because you don't know in the tribal council, people are like showing their cards and then you have to react on the spot, right? So for me, it's not so much about Shannon. It's more about, for anyone who's listening and you do this in the future, like, always carry your currency. You never know when you're going to need it, really.
Right.
Yeah. All right, well, we can move to...
one more thing, David, about the previous one. I wrote it down and I totally forgot about the thread. And it's not even about Shannon, but it blows my mind. When everything you do in Survivor has a meaning, your words have a meaning, your actions have a meaning. And I know I'm not talking about Jawan here, but I'm going to say it because I could see how Savannah is so annoyed by the actions of Jawan, right? Like carrying the wood in her bag or having, taking the wrong bag, and just the little things matter. So even though you think sometimes the big things are the threats, right? Like you think, I'm going to do this and it's going to backfire because I did it. Like, be very mindful in this game that every little action, if you're extra or you're not extra, like every little thing matters. So you really have to find a balance within this game of like making it not be a threat. Even if you're just carrying wood to help the whole tribe, guess what? You put it in someone else's bag by mistake and you got her bag dirty, it's going to annoy someone. So it's very interesting how sometimes the things you don't think of in this game could become a threat for your game, just like I mentioned from Jawan and Savannah, which I'm sure we'll talk about that in the near future, depending on who wins. And I know I'm talking about your pick, the winner pick here, David, but it's my mind went there because I know the little things matter, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, Appendix A discusses players keeping their end goals in mind when voting, and we talk about voting out the weak, then the strong, then the weak, then the strong. The players know the merge is near, so we're starting to shift from voting out the weak to voting out the strong. As far as we know, Shannon wasn't particularly strong to a worrisome degree in the challenge area, but that doesn't matter as much. What does is that she had a strong alliance waiting for her as soon as the tribes came back together. And that alliance did not include any of the other three people in her current tribe. Sure, she told Steven that she trusted him more than Jawan and wanted to work with him and that alliance she proposed. But how could he believe that when she saw how she works?
Mm-hmm.
Plus, she even said in interviews that her end goal was, yeah, maybe I want to use that alliance, but my end goal is to get back together with my Uli people again.
Right. Yeah. Well, and Sage was talking about that, how she felt like she wasn't one of the like top Uli people, which I don't know if I necessarily got that impression, but maybe that stemmed from Shannon kind of pushing in that direction. So it would have been interesting just to see the dynamic of them all coming back together, like who really was on the bottom of that potential Uli 6. Now it is going to seeing the ripple effect of this. You know, Sage was worried what it would appear when they got back together, if that they find out she was the one kind of leading the charge here to get rid of Shannon, what, if any, effect that will have on her. And if she already felt like she was on the outs with Uli, this might put her even more on the outs with Uli, but I guess we'll wait and see.
I do think Sage at some point a few weeks back did talk about how she feels a bit on the outs, right? Because like they were the 4 always together and she was a bit like on the outs. And it's interesting. I talked about how all of them had survived up until now. So Sage will have to come up with some sort of argument coming back. Luckily, she has Jawan there with her. And it's like Shannon was, trying to connect potentially with Steven and backfire, like just go against the Uli tribe. So I think they have a way to come back and have the story, because Sage and Jawan will probably have the same story together, because they know they're going to have to come up and tell everyone else what happened. But for Shannon's point, it's so interesting to see her, because she felt like she was running the tribe with all the things that she was doing originally, all the meditations and everything else. She felt comfortable right up until that point. And the game does turn punches at you by splitting multiple times. But it's so interesting to see how Shannon went from potentially thinking she was at the top running the show, potentially with Savannah, right? And then all of a sudden she's the first one to go home from the Uli tribe. So it's so interesting to see the journey that you go through. Never feel comfortable, because you could be the first one out for the tribe.
Less a journey and more a cliff. That is the main point of this appendix, for players to look ahead and determine their best path forward. So you brought up something that Rob and Steven debated on Know-It-Alls about whether it was strategically the best move for Sage, because she's going to have to go back to her tribe mates and explain this. I don't think there's much of a debate there. I think it 100% was. She was on the outs with her original tribe. And Shannon showed that just as easily as she suddenly claimed to be super close to Sage, she could have abandoned her at Merge. And, I mentioned earlier that Rob said on Know-It-Alls that Sage voted out Shannon because she didn't like her. And he's not the only one who has said that. And I have to absolutely disagree with anyone who says that, including the boss. We spent a lot of time in the second rule talking about all of the reasons Sage saw that Shannon would not stand by her as they move forward. And the point is, even if she loved Shannon as a person, which she didn't in the game, it wouldn't have been the correct move to keep her. Yes, Sage complained to us about Shannon a lot. But if you look back at those, most of them were complaining about her strategic behavior, pretending to be a seal, but really being a shark, being inauthentic in her gaming, bringing up her name to vote out, going after Jawan, etc. I think these looks of her eye rolling and everything else, and then that lasting image of her refusing to hug Shannon on the way out. I think that may confuse the issue. It leaves that idea that this was personal and emotional. But she wasn't even refusing it, at least what she said, because she disliked her. She said it wouldn't feel genuine to do so. And so, no, I do not think it was emotional at all. I think Sage made the right strategic decision.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I do think that that's When merge happens, a lot of things can happen, right? And if you already feel like you're in a bad place coming into a merge and that there's some way that you can ingratiate yourself to other people, Sage has now ingratiated herself to both Jawan and Steven. And so that's definitely helpful to her, considering Shannon was offering Sage up as a potential vote out. And so you've corrected a space for yourself with other people that you might not have had that space with before. And someone like Shannon, if you feel like you're expendable, then you've actually beat her to the punch, right? And you've eliminated her from spreading your name further down once you get to emerge to those people that you might not have had an interaction with yet. So I do agree that this was the best move for Sage to do.
I agree. I don't think she necessarily disliked her as a person, but she clearly was annoyed as heck from her. And if you're, I do think there's an aspect of, and I talked about Jawan and Savannah, which by the way is kind of a similar situation from annoyance. You want to kick people out that are annoying the heck out of you. You want to also survive there and not be annoyed every time. And then it puts you in this mental state that you don't want to be in. So maybe it is a good thing for Sage to like kick Shannon out and do anything that she could to vote her out, because now she could be a much better mental state emotionally where she can control herself, right? Going back to rule number 4, now is putting Sage in a state where she can potentially control her emotions better for her game.
Right.
Now that Shannon is out, whether she dislikes her or not, I think that's slightly different than being annoyed by all the actions behind the game, right? So
yeah.
Now, the other thing you brought up, which Sage knows, she told us that when the other Uli members see Shannon is gone, it could blow up her spot. But she didn't have a spot in that group to begin with. Yeah. It might make them want to target her more instead of being an afterthought. But the best she could have hoped for otherwise was for them to use her as a number before tossing her aside. Or even if there's a mergatory type of situation where like only half the tribe are eligible to be voted out, if she were one of them, she could have been offered up as a sacrifice. We've seen that happen before.
Yes.
The original Uli could have been like, well, we don't want a war, so we'll let you vote out Sage.
Yes. Yeah, that's a really great point. We have seen
I don't think she heard her position here at all.
No.
Now, maybe we'll be discussing why Sage lost next week, and we'll have to readdress that. But either way, I think she was going into merge in a bad spot. So you can't blow up a spot that's already bad.
Now, one comment, though, about Sage, and it just hit me while we're talking. Her not giving a hug to Shannon was probably an authentic moment for Sage, right? Like, I just don't want to fake it for her because she's out of the game. But I don't know how Jawan and Steven are going to perceive the moment because they're still in the game. So it's very interesting because it could easily backfire. That real moment there, right, that she was giving to Shannon, Jawan and Steven could come back and be like, oh my God, Sage is heartless within the game, and come back and be like, did you know that Sage didn't, hug Shannon, even though Shannon was so sweet with everyone, right? Like that real moment there at the very end could potentially backfire her. And I actually appreciate as a viewer, I love the moment because it's like, I like it. I really do. It's good TV. But it could actually, those two just couple sentences there could have hurt her game if Jawan and Steven go back and start telling people that's what happened. Yeah. We're going to see if even plays anything within the game, maybe not. But it's very interesting. That real moment may actually backfire her a little bit within the game.
Yeah. All right. Well, it is about time to wrap things up here. So, Heidi, what are your final thoughts on Shannon?
On the personal side, and as a viewer, right, I love Shannon for the game. It was extra, and sometimes it was great to see the extra people and it was the combination, really, not just Shannon. It was the combination between Shannon and Sage. I actually had to Google it today to see if they were still friends or if they actually gave a hug, and I did read that Sage went to Boston and they kind of hug it out legit, authentically. So that made my heart warm and happy because I was really hoping that outside the game, this wasn't like, something they were hurt with each other. I would love to meet Shannon face to face to see if what we got as a viewer is what she is in real life. I hope more people have a little bit more Shannon in them. I hope I have some Shannon in me in the real life, and I hope I actually attempt to have a little Shannon in me. So from a personal side, I really love seeing her in the game. I think her, I kind of knew from the get-go she wasn't going to win because of that, because I think you need less Shannon to win the game and have the strategic parts of winning the game. But I really love her journey, and it was fun to see how she was managing that. But I really think from the get-go, that wasn't going to take her to the end.
I do think it's incredible that at the very start of meeting Shannon, when she had to provide 3 words to describe herself, she said, free, passionate, I make things happen, faithful, spunky, confident, in love with life. That's way more than 3 words, right? And I think it's fascinating that Heidi just said, we got too much of Shannon, right? That's basically what I think is a really great representation of what we have here. We have a whole lot of Shannon happening, and she recognized that in herself just by providing that answer. Shannon is certainly someone who comes into a space and wants you to know who she is. Mm-hmm. She wants you to know all about Shannon, and she doesn't spend enough time getting to know the other people around her. She falls into this, this is about me, and if you want to come along with my journey, great. And she was, I think, hoping that that's what was happening, but unfortunately didn't spend enough time realizing that that's not what was happening. She was being outplayed by everyone around her. And if you are in the game of Survivor and it feels like everyone is kind of going along with you, maybe they're not really going along with you.
Red flag.
And that is that's a huge red flag, because they weren't even questioning her. She would say, this is what I want to do. And it was like, oh, okay, yeah, we can do that, Shannon. And when you get that confident and you're so confident you are actually expressing it, she said, one of the things that she said about herself, which I thought was fascinating, was that she had lucky girl syndrome. That's what she was describing it as. And if you feel that you are in that space, then it might not be luck. It might be other people just telling you what you need to hear in order to keep the game moving in the direction they want versus the direction you want. And so while I can appreciate Shannon wanting to be sincere, wanting to be authentic, I think, Heidi, you said it great. It was too much Shannon. It was too much. You have to find that balance. You need to be able to understand who you are, what you're bringing to the game. All of those things become part of your game, but you need to be able to give just enough that you're not finding yourself trying to control the game in a way that puts you in a bad position. And unfortunately, that's what we saw with Shannon, and she found herself voted out, I think, because of it.
In Tribal Council, Shannon repeatedly talked about keeping her heart open. But a big problem was that while she may have thought it was coming across as being open, others saw it as being closed off, cold, hard, because it was being used as a weapon. Indeed, the difference in perception was one of her biggest problems. She thought she could make authentic connections as a part of strategy, but she took it too far. You can't connect with and support someone about their grandmother who recently passed away and then turn around and try to blindside them and not expect there to be repercussions. We've seen it before. By trying to play both as a warm, loving person and also cold and strategic, everything you do is going to look completely inauthentic, no matter what you may claim is in your head. It's like if you take a glass and you heat it up and then you plunge it into cold water, it's going to shatter, just like her game did. And remember, I got my degree in ceramic engineering and did actual research on glass, so I know what I'm talking about here. It was only a matter of time before players started picking up on what she was doing, because she was not hiding it well at all. It all goes back to what Jeff said in Tribal Council. You can play hard and covert, and that's fine because nobody knows. But if you're playing hard and everybody sees that, then you're playing poorly, and that's a problem. Sage, who knew her the longest, saw it quickly. Then Steven, who brought in Alex and MC and even Christina. Finally, Jawan was added to the mix such that literally everybody saw it. Once they did, they knew there was no way they could trust her going forward. Plus, there was simply very little reason to go along with her plan this week and vote out Jawan. It would just give her time to solidify her position at the merge and push the other two aside. Sage and Steven outplayed Shannon in both the strategic and social aspects of the game at the end. But more than that, she outplayed herself by not being able to see how she was being perceived by others. She thought that what went on inside her head was all she had to worry about. But really, she needed to consider what went on in everybody else's head.
Yeah.
If she had thought about that, or if she did think about that, it didn't show in the way she was acting, which meant they saw her as performative and fake, and most importantly, untrustworthy. And that is why Shannon lost.
We are.
I try to give her some grace because I do think there's a lot of greatness there.
Yeah, I have to say I do not have any Shannon in me. I don't want any Shannon in me. So, but that is not, that's separate from the game. So, now before we get to our predictions for the next episode, I want to mention that next week we will have another popular returning guest, Dr. Jeremy Faust, who was recently a recipient of the 2025 National Academy's Eric and Wendy Schmidt Award for Excellence in Science Communication, granted by the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine. Wow, I feel very confident in saying it will be the first time RHAP has had a winner of that award on any of its podcasts.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty confident statement to make. Yes. Excellent job, Dr. Jeremy Faust. That's incredible. Love that. So
now that is next week. For now, I do want to remind everyone that the rules we just talked about are available in poster form, and of course, a poster on a t-shirt form and checklist on a t-shirt form. So again, just go to robhasawebsite.com/YXLostFeed. And if you look at the bottom of Rule 5 there, if you squint your eyes and look at that, that's where you can see the part that we talked about, that parenthetical subtitle, keep your politics and controversial beliefs to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, goodness. So next week, it sounds like they're all coming together, right? So this is
well, wait, we're not ready for that yet.
Oh, we're not ready for that yet?
No, we have to. Well, Heidi, where can we find you online? Before
we're doing this. I gotcha.
No worries. So you will see, for those that may be watching, it's Heidi Lagares on Instagram and also on TikTok. Although I'm completely new on TikTok, for the first time, I'm taking it serious. And then I have my new page. It's all about adventures and travels, which is at Roam Wild Family. And that is my new adventure. So yeah, more to be shared through that.
So where is I think I follow it, but I can't remember where, because
it's on Instagram, purely on Instagram. Yeah, it's all about, for anyone who knows me, I'm a big traveler person. I've been to all 7 continents, and I never really cared to do social media for that. But lately, I started taking it serious lately, as of only 2 months. So this is brand new. And instead of being purely just Heidi's adventures and mixing what it is like to have teens in the mix, where they are they are sometimes very much just saying yes to the adventures and they go with me. And sometimes they're completely I don't want you to share anything about me because I'm a teenager. I have my own thing. So it's a lot about the dynamics of how to, go in adventures with teenagers, right? So it's a family adventure there.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I am at Jessica Lewis 89 on both Blue Sky and Twitter, and I am also at Jessica Lewis 6789 on Instagram. I am not very social media savvy. If you hear anything right now, that's just my dog. I apologize, but As for someone like David Bloomberg, who is very much into the social media world, I know Heidi is now dipping her toe a little farther in, but David Bloomberg has been deeply in for quite some time, so much so that he has a link tree that allows you to find all of the places in which you can see David Bloomberg content. So what about your link tree? Can you share with the listeners, David?
Well, you can find you can find that at linktree/David Bloomberg, or you can find me directly at Blue Sky as at David Bloomberg. I encourage everyone to come to Blue Sky, of course. They just the other day, they hit 40 million people there. So come join it. Let's get even more. I have, of course, also been posting around 2 or 3 reality TV short videos every day on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, where I am at David Bloomberg TV. Most of them are, of course, about Survivor 49. Plus, there are 2 seasons of The Traders currently going on. There's Celebrity Traders UK and The Traders Canada Season 3. And for those, I am co-hosting the Tradar podcast for the Traders Canada. There are 2 episodes of that out so far. And I was on the Tradar podcast for discussion about the Celebrity Traders UK episode 7 a couple days ago, and will be again for the finale this coming week. So you can find the Tradar, which is TRAIDAR, either wherever you get podcasts normally or on YouTube.
And David, you will be covering the US as well when it comes out. My friend Jam is in it, so I am excited to watch it.
Well, there's also some guy named Rob Sester.
That's right. Oh my God, you're
crazy, right?
Yeah. So yes, it will be definitely interesting to watch that one. That I think starts in January. Is usually when they start.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
All right, predictions. So we know from the previews that we're hitting the merge.
Yes.
I saw a press photo.
Oh.
Thank you to Jeff from True Dork Times for posting this on Blue Sky, that indicating at the very least it's what they're calling a 2-part immunity challenge, where half the players win a reward challenge and then move forward. And then half don't, because heaven forbid they should give the merge feast anymore, because you got to earn it. Which, getting to the merge earns the merge feast. But no, not for Jeff anymore. So it appears that only one person will win immunity, which is at least good. That they won't narrow it down to just the half the tribe thing. Still, the question is what remains or what happens when they all come together. We could presume that the remaining original Uli core are solid, but they're down to 4, including your Sophie, Jessica. That's how I'm going to call her from now on. Your Sophie.
My Sophie.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the original Hina also have good reason to stick together, giving them 4 as well. And so I think the key people are Alex, Sage, and Jawan.
Mm-hmm.
Alex seems likely to stay with Steven and therefore Hina, but he also has fellow surviving Kelly member Sophie, who I'm sure will be trying to bring him over to the Uli side.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so you've got that. Then maybe the original Uli core can convince Jawan he's a part of them, even after helping to vote out Shannon. As we discussed, I'm sorry to say, he seems predisposed to believe it. I mean, they may even claim that they're great with having Sage back too. I don't see her buying it unless she feels she's in danger otherwise. Like, they could come after me, so I'm going to have to join them. I don't know. I just don't see Sage as being ready to jump back into their arms. Maybe, hopefully, she can open Jawan's eyes as well. And I don't know. I think it makes sense to take a strike at that original Uli group. And since Nate has been seen as the leader of the pack in some ways, it wouldn't surprise me to see them taking a shot at him. So I guess that's going to be my pick, but I have a feeling
Nate?
I just have a feeling I will not be getting to 5 correct predictions in a row here.
Okay.
Yeah, I completely disagree with you.
Yeah.
Me too.
I think there has been way too much reference with Savannah and her dislike of Juwan. I hate to say it, David, but I feel like that will be the sacrificial lamb. Like that Savannah will say, "Hey, listen, I know that it's an Uli Hina thing that's going on here, and we're having some issues, but now she's going to recognize this is an individual game at this point, and he has been frustrating her." And I do feel like he's frustrated other people because he's been a focal point for some other people as well. They've been questioning him, acting a little sketchy at times. I think it's going to be Juwan. I apologize, David.
And here's my response to that. Which you have to see. For those of you on audio only, I put the sage gif disgusted face back up there again.
Yes.
So I don't know if I should give mine in terms, because I won't be here next week with you, but I'm still gonna give it to you. All right.
We'll talk about you.
I'm gonna base it on slightly different than Jessica. We have 4 members of Hina, the original Hina, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have 5 from Uli. And if Uli was smart, they would like stick together, but they're broken. Savannah, to Jessica's point, Savannah really wants to kick out Juwan. So I truly think they shouldn't kick him out, but I think Juwan, it's going to be the sacrificial lamb next week because of that whole threat of, Savannah not being aligned with Juwan's way. And I think Sage doesn't have an alliance or a connection, a true connection outside her Uli tribe. So that's why I think she's going to end up voting with them, with Savannah and Nate. And I think Nate last week talked about how Savannah was running that whole, tribe now. So I think that Nate, Rizzo, Sage, and Savannah are going to stick together and go against Juwan, even though I think it's going to be a mistake for them. But I truly think Juwan is going to be the one being hurt next week. So
both of you against my winner pick.
Sorry.
That's rough.
Sorry.
Now, before I make my official predictions on Chat BCC, I'll have to see if you've changed my mind. I'll have to consider this more.
Yeah, I think the 4 Hina would potentially go with the Kelly original, like Alex and Sophie get together, even if the Uli are not together, right? Because Sage is gonna be probably trying to figure herself out. So the 4 Hina with the 2 Kelly will try to go for Uli because they have more members, right? So they're just Juwan is gonna be the to suffer because Savannah is gonna start trash talking about it, and the other tribe are gonna see the breakthrough, right? So even if they stick together, the other 4 plus the 2 have more numbers than them.
I mean, but if she now think about it from your perspective, if you were on a tribe and you were gathering people to go after this other core group, and one member of that core group started trash talking someone else, wouldn't you just go after the trash talker instead? Like, oh, they seem to be the leader. Let's go after them, not the person they're talking about.
Well, I agree with that, except with the assumption that Savannah is really aligned with Sophie now, right? Like,
True.
So I don't think
she's got a core group, right? Yeah. She comes with numbers.
And I don't think Sophie will go against Savannah in this case, which is the one that will probably start throwing Jawan's names there. Yeah. So I don't think that the 4 plus the original 2 Kelly tribe will go after Savannah, only because Sophie is not going to allow it. So I don't know. It's a prediction without knowing exactly what's going to happen. But that's kind of where I'm going with.
All right. Well, that's interesting. You may be convincing me, but I don't like it. I don't like it, but you may be convincing me. All right. Well, as we wrap up, I want to encourage people to check out the RHAP patron program at robhasawebsite.com/patron. Get access to all the special podcasts that are put out just for patrons, plus Facebook groups, Discord, early access to and discounts for live shows, all those different things. And most importantly, you can support shows like ours and everything on the network at robhasawebsite.com/patron. And also make sure you're subscribed to all of the RHAP Survivor podcasts by going to weknowsurvivor.com. You'll see all of your favorite Survivor podcasts there from us, the Know-It-Alls, the B&B, Survivor Global, and more.
Yes, and we would like to thank everyone at RHAP, not just for the work that you do on this podcast, but for the work that you do on all of the RHAP content that you just heard David speak of. There are so many things available to you. So thank you to Scott, thank you to Jess for all of the work that you do with all of the behind the scenes work, and to the entire team that works with them. Thank you to Will from America for the theme song that you created for this podcast that you hear in the audio version of Why Blank Lost. And thank you, Heidi, for joining us yet again. This has been lovely. I always appreciate having you here. You come with great insight, and it's been such a good time. And I love that's a little too much, Shannon. That was good.
Thank you both.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you again, Heidi, from me as well. Like Jessica said, it's always fun to have you here. And yeah, there were definitely several rules where you came at it from a different way. I'm like, oh, I had not thought of it that way. So yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I love it. And I cannot wait for 50 also, because I feel like 49 has been interesting, but there's some weaknesses there too. So I think it's been too long, and we've been waiting too long for a comeback season. So I cannot wait also. So maybe we'll talk about that, not even next year. I guess next year, 2026, right? So
yes.
Yeah. And then next week, as I mentioned, we will have Dr. Jeremy Faust on, and so watch for that. Thank you, Jessica, of course, again, as usual. I hope everyone had a good Halloween. And
I got to rock.
You got to rock. And we will see everyone in a little less than a week. And you can find us on social media as well. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.